Good evening and welcome to your view with me on JJ Tabane. Thank you very much for your feedback on the work that we are doing here. We can only improve because of your critique. We can only improve because of what you give us as your contributions. Of course, you are welcome to also suggest what guests you'd like us to have on the show and what sort of topics you want us to tackle. Of course, on Thursdays, we look at the week that was. Everybody had a view this week, from Andilem Tikam, who was my guest earlier on, to Johan Rupert. But both of them, you know, it's always interesting when people on the extreme sides of the world agree. They all are scared of Didi Mabuza becoming president. They're all scared, very scared. Rupert apparently threatening to throw his toys out of the court and leave, and Andilem Tikama suggesting that the Estina Dari mafia must become president. I mean, honestly speaking, I mean, in a straight face, he looked at me and said, on all of the top 6, he thinks that Ace Magashule, he of the gangster state fame, right, who has allegations the size of a book against him, must become president. Why do we always want to go and get the lowest common denominator to be president? I want to get Zuma. I want Zuma Sutlile, man, because everybody now thinks they can be president, right? Everybody thinks he can be president. The bar has been lowered, man. Yeah, it's been lowered. Anyway, the president of the republic kicking us off on Sunday with his response to the Public Protector's report. Let's take a look.
I have concluded that the report is fundamentally and irretrievably flawed. This is strongly confirmed by my legal representatives, who have equally studied the Public Protector's report very thoroughly. The report contains numerous factual inaccuracies of a material nature. The findings we have found are wrong in law, are irrational, and in some instances exceed the scope of the powers of the Public Protector. Furthermore, in failing to provide me with an opportunity to comment on the proposed remedial action, the Public Protector has violated the provisions of the Public Protector Act, the Constitution, and the principles of our common law. Now, given these deficiencies and consistent with our constitutional architecture, it is appropriate that the courts of our country make a final and impartial determination on this matter.
All right. This is at least it's an improvement, because usually presidents speak after weeks. Becky was very popular for this. There'll be a controversy raging, and then he says, no, but I said this 6 weeks ago, man. Zuma took 3 years to deal with the Nkandla report, so at least we have a president who in 3 days wanted to come and talk to us. But that is only the beginning. The key thing is, what is he going to say in court, in the review itself? Is he going to insist, unbelievably, that he did not know anything? Is he going to be a Zuma light, saying that he doesn't remember anything? And I think that for me, this whole aspect of him trying to put a distance between him and his knowledge of these funders, his backers, for me is very problematic, and it reflects badly on those who are advising the president. But it's a matter we must all suspend our judgment and see what happens. But I suspect that that's going to bite. And if I were, his advisor would say that he should accept responsibility for not having been diligent about understanding how the funds were being raised and who was raising the funds, and also admit that he was a bit sloppy about it. And then the matter will be done. No, now he's going to insist that he didn't know, he had amnesia, which seems to be the medicine of all of our presidents. Anyway, we'll see what happens there. But I think well done for whoever advised him to say, go to the public, just put the thing on review immediately so that it's out of the way very fast. Of course, also not so good a week for the Public Protector. Another one who must watch around her rather, who is advising her to do or say some of the things that she's been saying. But let's listen to what the Constitutional Court had to say about her conduct on Monday this week. Let's take a look.
The public protector put forward a number of falsehoods in the course of litigation, including misrepresenting under oath before the High Court that the economic analysis that underpinned the final report was based on expert economic advice, whereas this was false, as the report was not based on expert economic advice. In this court, the public protector's various explanation of her conduct was contradictory. This court accordingly concludes that the punitive aspect of the court order against the public protector must stand in light of the standard of conduct expected from public officials.
Very, very damning judgment right there. We cannot ignore it. As I was saying earlier on in the week, there was a lot of emphasis on respecting that the Constitutional Court told us around the Nkandla matter that the public protector must be respected and her remedial actions are binding, so that there's no joke about it. Once the Constitutional Court has spoken, we all have to comply. And that also applies to the public protector. You know, to err is human, man. To err is human. When the highest court in the land says to you, you told a lie, the best thing you can do is to reflect and accept, because all of us must be subject to that highest law in our land. We can't dilly-dally and so on. And I look forward to how the public protector, after studying the judgment that she says, will respond to that particular issue. There are lots of people who are waiting in the wings to get rid of her just based on this judgment. The question is, if somebody asks, do we always have to get them fired? Is that the way to build a society? Is that the way to build these institutions? Or sometimes we need to be able to get somebody to get into a corrective mode so they can do better. You be the judge. Send us your views on that. Hashtag your view on 405. Of course, so Lima Pailo, no, in fact, Derek had come in the news. Let's take a look at what Julius Malema and Derek had to say this week.
One who gave us a list of ANC MPs who were going to vote with us against Zuma in the motion of no confidence.
Some of what he said was certainly true, that I had, as many other people had, meetings with one member of the EFF at the time. But you know, when you're in Parliament, you're talking to each other all the time. But I sat down and had coffee with one prominent member of the EFF, on his request, I might add. And we were discussing how we deal with a particularly difficult time in South Africa's history. And there's no ways that I would refuse a discussion of that nature. Of course, parties were discussing, how to deal with the challenge across the board. 2017 was a year in which we saw mass action against some of the things plaguing our country. Our country was in a crisis, facing a crisis. And of course, we know it centered around our then president. The ANC itself, at the NEC, we discussed it a couple of times, which is well known. This is sort of a matter of public knowledge. And we requested that he step down from his office. We did not succeed in 2017, but at the first NEC meeting in 2018, it was actually the ANC that instructed President Jacob Zuma to resign from office, which was the right thing to do.
Yeah, hey, Juju. Juju set in the agenda there for the ANC. Of course, the spokesperson of the ANC last night talking to me, very, very unimpressed with the fact that he had to respond to what Julius Malema had done to, what you do, build a wedge, isn't it, amongst comrades, suspicious. Of course, Zuma not resisting to enter the fray. Whoever taught Zuma how to tweet, they must take away the phone because he's becoming like a zilla now. Now, Derek Hanekom, after all this time, right, Derek Hanekom has been minister numerously under Zuma. Suddenly, he's an enemy agent. In fact, Zuma says he's a known enemy agent. It's terrible, man, what's happening to the movement. They're tearing itself apart, comrades just becoming nasty. to each other and so on. And this whole spy story thing is poor, man. It's poor. When you disagree with somebody, they're suddenly a spy, you know. All Derek had to do was to be mentioned by Julius Malema. Suddenly he's a spy. Even the SG says, yeah, he's a EFF. I don't know, he concocted some way, you know, basically meaning that he's a sort of an EFF person who has not declared, basically. The same guy who expelled Malema, suddenly he's now a member of the EFF. I mean, honestly, are we serious at all? But, you know, one of the things that struck me was the issue of Solima Paila this week, and this whole movement about Gordhan and what. You know, I know that sometimes the fight against corruption or speaking out against corruption and what, sometimes of course, you know, in a good place. But there's something that we need to be really, really aware of, that we got to look at the facts. We must never blindly support somebody. And the SACP in particular must learn from it. The SACP is the one that gave us Zuma. They gave us Zuma in Polokwane. They gave us Zuma. You know, I happened to attend the Polokwane conference, and after Zuma was elected, we were at a hotel outside Polokwane where a lot of comrades were gathering for drinks and so on. And Bladen Zimande cried tears of joy, man. Literally, I mean, it's not a metaphor. He was crying tears of joy, saying, you know, finally we got somebody who can understand us and what have you. They gave us Zuma. Blade and Vavi. Vavi, and even called him a tsunami, an unstoppable tsunami. Of course, I know he regrets very badly about it. You know, Blade also, I'm sure, regrets. Right? Now they are defending Gordhan. They don't say, if Gordhan is found to be innocent, we will throw our weight behind him. That, you know, they've put a blanket thing. They support him regardless. No, they can't support regardless. That's what gave us, that was made you to give us Zuma. You got to be more circumspect. I asked Jackson Mtembu, what have you learned from the Nkandla saga? No. We learned that we must appeal. No, man, that's not the lesson. You didn't learn that you must appeal. You must learn that you must comply. When a public protector speaks, learn to comply. That's the lesson. Not, no, we learned that we must appeal. No. Take it on review. No. That is secondary. What's primary is that we must learn that we must respect Chapter 9 institutions. We must respect those institutions. Even if we may think they are not God, we must respect it. That's why they are there. That's why our forebears wrote them into our constitution. That's also a week that was quite a dramatic week. We look forward to some of those. I didn't have enough time to talk about the Estina Dairy Farm, but I'm sure the story is not about to end. Let's take a break. After the break, we talk to Sifiso Mtweni. He's the chairperson of the NYDA, but also situated in the presidency, which this week put on the agenda the 25-year review. And I'm going to be talking to him about what are some of the things that we need to learn from the 25 years of our democracy. Of course, don't forget, at 10 o'clock, Natim Tetwa, Minister of Arts and Culture, my guest here on the Frank Talk. Let's take a break.